Okay, so I'm gonna teach you how to make some basic begleri out of just hex nuts and string. This is the one I see online. It's not terrible, but I find that you can't really adjust it. So like this, for example, happens to where it needs to be right here, and there's no really good way to fix it after you make it. So this is just using one string for the whole thing, and you wrap it in and out. It's really cool. It's a cool idea, but I think that it's bad because you can't adjust it. It doesn't do it anymore because it's completely stretched out, but before these would loosen and then it would be too short. So I feel like this is an okay idea. You just want to slap some hex nuts on a string and tie a knot. The knot you want to do is just like a regular knot, but you just go through one more time. That causes it to be a big bulky knot so it doesn't slip through. And honestly, like, hex nuts are some of my favorite sets. Like, it's so simple. It costs under like $2 to make something like this, yet it's beast. I'm also gonna show you how to put these tassels on the end. I mean, they look really cool when you're playing with them. So all you really need is some string, hex nuts, and scissors. This design's cool and all, but I'm gonna sacrifice it for the video so that I can make a fourth set, just to show you some variations on what you can do. Okay, so before you make your begleri, you want to make sure that you have the sizing down. What I do is I do this. You want it to be tight, but not too tight, and everyone has a different feel. So what I do is I put it in between my two fingers like this. I wrap over once and then go through. That's about the length you want. Give or take, it might have a little bit, little less. Really depends on like how spread your fingers are. This set is a little bit tighter for me. I made it a little bit shorter so that I could practice on getting it right. That kind of stuff happens to me because it's too short. And this one is a little bit over, but it feels really good. So the super basic way to do this is to just tie a knot at one end of the string, like so. Boom. Then you just put the hex nuts on. Now I'm using a combination of hex nuts and lock nuts because I like the ends of a lock nut look really cool and they're kind of rounded off. That's just my personal preference. I feel like they shape, it gives it a better shape. Now most people tie a knot right here. I don't do that. So the way you want to figure out where you put your knot is I do this. I go ahead and I wrap it to my finger and I get right here. That's where I need to have my knot, is where my finger is pinched. Now when you first tie your knot, you don't want to tighten it all the way because you're not always gonna get it in the spot that you need. So when you feel you have it in an okay spot, you want to tighten it either up or down accordingly to where, how tight you want it, how loose you want it. Cool. So I really like tassels. I think tassels make the begleri look cooler. You can also do extra tricks with tassels. Sure, you can do it with just a basic knot, but I like having tassels. So I usually take something sharp. You can get a needle, you can get thumbtacks, toothpicks. I've seen people use combs, and you just go slowly through picking it. You don't want to start from here because it's just gonna damage the strings. Bam! You have tassels. So that's a very basic set. Now I'm gonna make a set out of just I'm gonna make hex nut string beads. That way that you can still adjust them and take them apart, and they'll act just as normal begleri beads. So what I'm gonna do is take the string and do what the tutorial normally says for you to do. Now once you get it wrapped, you can go more than this, but I want to do 6. You want to tie the two ends together. So I'm going to do the same thing to the other set of hex nuts. You tie a lasso knot, you tighten it down. You don't want to tighten it too much in the beginning, just enough to where the hex nuts fit. Then you start wrapping. And remember, you can do as many wraps as you want, but since it's a hex nut, I'm doing 6. So now you have 2 sets of hex nut string beads. So now when you take your string and you put them together, remember you want to pinch, then let it drop, and tie the knot right where you were pinching. This is what happens when you're impatient like me and you try to skip ahead. Instead of going slowly and taking your time, you get knotted when you're making your tassels, and it can get ugly. So remember, have some patience, don't be like me. So once you have it all strung up, you can adjust the strings on every side to fit to the wall of the hex nut. It makes for a really cool design. You can always switch out your strings, and they also slide. So it's not fixed, you can adjust them. And they work really nice. This is a very cool set. Now, I'm going to show you how to make a basic set like this and add extra flair to the tassels. I'm going to be using yellow on the ends and using an orange string. So maybe it'll look like fire. So what I do is I tie my double knot, and I don't go all the way down. I just go about right there. And what you do is you take your string that you're going to be using and you tie it just like this. Now you want to make sure this is very tight. I would say even go triple just to be sure. Then you go and you tighten your knot. So you basically have 3 strings dangling. And remember, you want to get this as tight as you can. If you have pliers or something, it'd be best to take right here and just pull. So that's the setup. This is good for bigger hex nuts because the knot is way bigger. So this is a little bit more difficult to size up because when you tie the string onto it, it kind of fixes the knot in place. Pinch. What I do is I drag down just a little bit and then I tie my knot. For this one, you want to be real careful because you can go kind of small. See, I went too down on this one. I'm going to have to move it up. That's about right. So this one's a little bit low, so when I tighten it, I want to push it upward. It's nice to have tweezers around or a tool that you can fit stuff into. I don't want to untie this because it's in a good spot, so I'm just going to shove it through. Works good. Now, since I'm a little bit OCD, I cut my tassels to be the same on each side. So I accidentally made the orange string have a little bit more on one side. Now you have to tassel all of them. But before I do that, you'll notice that these don't really stay, even with a triple knot. This one, after time, was coming loose. So if you have a little bit of super glue, just put a little bit on the knot areas. Just a little bit, not too much. This will keep it from untangling. Boom, you have multicolored tassels. So this is a good way to add a little bit of extra flair to your sets. Makes them look really cool. I'm gonna do the easy one more time. What you wanna do, tie a knot, then pass the end through it again and tighten it down. Put on the hex nuts, lock nuts, whatever combination you have onto the string, and wrap it around your fingers. Pinch right where you feel the knot should be. Let it all drop, skim down just a bit, and tie a double knot. Don't tighten it, just reposition the wrap. So see, mine's too tight. So you want to loosen it and go up the string. After you're done adjusting the string, you have your set. So once you're done tying the knots, you make your tassels, or you just cut your end, and you have yourself a set of begleri. So this is the way I make my begleri out of hex nuts and string. There's tons of tutorials out there on YouTube and on the internet where you can find other people's designs, but this is the way I make them. It's all under $2 to $3 really. I usually spend $5 because I'm getting so many, but you can literally use anything you want. You can use a shoelace, you can use rope, you can use yo-yo string, you can use nylon rope. Anything really works. If you're desperate, you could use dental floss. And you don't really have to use hex nuts. Anything that has a good enough weight and that can fit on a string is pretty much awesome for begleri.